Hello and welcome to the Functionally Enlightened Podcast with Dr. Sharon Surita. We interview well-respected medical and functional practitioners, as well as patients who have overcome disabling chronic conditions, such as dysautonomia, and reclaimed their health. These enlightened guests provide helpful tips on managing chronic pain and illnesses, using a combination of traditional and whole-body healing modalities. If you're interested in natural healing and quality of life improvement, you're in the right place. Thank you for listening to today's episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Functionally Enlightened Podcast. Just a couple of weeks ago, we shared a powerful conversation with Nicole Bell, who spoke about her husband's battle with undiagnosed Lyme disease and how that shaped her advocacy work. Today, we're continuing that exploration into the complex world of chronic Lyme with another extraordinary guest, Frédéric Roscop. Frédéric is a UK-based osteopathic practitioner, a scientist, and an innovator who lived with Lyme disease for more than 2 decades, and he didn't find relief through conventional treatments. So really through his own research and persistence, he developed liquid intelligence, which is a double patented process that ultimately restored his health, and he utilizes it to help countless others along their health journeys. He is now symptom-free, helping others again recover from Lyme-related fatigue or neurological symptoms and other immune dysfunction. He is recognized as Osteopath of the Year and Wellbeing Startup of the Year in 2024 for his brand Aequil. Frédéric is at the forefront of cutting-edge Lyme research, combining structural, cellular, and frequency-based science to address the root causes of chronic conditions. We'll be digging into his recovery journey, his groundbreaking work, and how his approach may offer hope to others navigating persistent Lyme and complex chronic illnesses. Frédéric, we truly appreciate your time, especially you being across the world from us.
Thank you very much, Sharon, for the introduction, and thank you and hi to all your listeners. Thank you very much.
In our last Lyme-focused conversation, again, we explored the heartbreak of undiagnosed and untreated infections. Frédéric, your story is very different, but equally powerful. Could you share with us what it was like to live with Lyme for 2 decades and what finally shifted for you?
First of all, despite being a practitioner and having that condition at such a young age, I think that I must have had Lyme's disease from the age of 7 to 10 years old, living in the countryside in the middle of France. Obviously, I'm turning 50 this year, so we are talking about 45 years ago, where the knowledge about possibly chronic conditions, chronic Lyme disease, and even acute Lyme disease were not specifically known to France, the doctors, and others. A lack of awareness. And in fact, what happened is only, so let's say 20 years later, that I came to realize that I did have Lyme's disease for already 20 years, and then a good 10 years more to be able to get treated. And so for the first 20 years, the problem is you think that everything is normal. You are normal, and it's normal for you to be tired. It's for you to be in pain. It's normal for you to have chronic pain because you don't know any others. And it's not a communication that you have with your parents, especially my parents were quite absent. So you just live your life thinking that you're having a normal life. And suddenly I reached 16, 17, and I started having a lot more physical issues. I had a little surgery on my nose because I broke it. And literally after that general anesthetic, I couldn't study anymore. I couldn't see, actually. So literally a week after that surgery, I needed to have glasses. And I couldn't study. I couldn't be the person that I was before that surgery. And I never realized that the anesthetic or the underlying Lyme suddenly came to me as a symptomatic vengeance or something triggered the Lyme's to become more symptomatic in my body. And I was failing in the sense of school became suddenly very difficult. I was 16 and I couldn't focus, I couldn't study. Fortunately, I was good in mathematics and my memory was really good. So I managed to survive that kind of classical French system. And then I went to university and I could see all my friends partying. And I was like, I can't party. I need to control. I was controlling everything. I couldn't drink. I needed to sleep. I needed to constantly study to be up to date. So I could see all my friends and I was like, I can't do this. And I was so unwell within that it was very difficult to relate with the people around me.
Mhm.
So I had that kind of, again, it's not to categorize or polemics, but I was definitely in a kind of a neurosensitive disorder kind of category. I was not autistic, but I was definitely on the spectrum of something, or possibly I was. But again, it's a question of diagnosis 20 years ago,
Mhm.
and but I couldn't relate. I couldn't relate to who I was, be comfortable and aware with who I was, physically, mentally, intellectually, sexually. Everything was confused because my nerves were confused and my systems were confused. And having a relationship with anything or anyone was a loss of anybody's time, my time, their time. I was not functioning at all. And then I lost my father when I was 27, and suddenly that was another shock in my system. So after the anesthetic, it was suddenly the emotional big shock of losing my dad that
Mhm.
literally I hadn't seen for 16 or 17 years. And so he disappeared of my life. I was always kind of looking for him, and that news really brought obviously a lot of emotions. And suddenly I started having heart infections. And those heart infection were Lyme's disease infection. I was starting having endocarditis, myocarditis, um, quite regularly, and I started having panic attack where my heart was really uncomfortable, and then I started hitting my chest quite regularly on the back of the death of my dad and that kind of chronic Lyme's disease, which was not only in my nerves but in my heart and different other systems. As we know, it's a systemic disease, and gradually, the weaker I was becoming, or the more affected by my environment I was getting, the more new symptoms I was getting, and so I was starting to get a lot more anxious and hyperactive and less social and less living my life. And instead, I was starting to live the life of my patients, which is something I explain quite a lot in the sense of as I was really, my Lyme's disease didn't give me that exhaustion that a lot of people have where you are bedridden, and my Lyme's disease was really that kind of ADHD, hyperactivity kind of syndrome type of situation. So I was sleeping 3, 4 hours a night. I was exhausted but completely hyper. And in the same time, it's like the only thing which was pacifying me was to be in practice with my patients 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, 7 days a week, treating 100 patients weeks after weeks because the practice was my temple. It was my safe universe, my safe space. Because when you have got Lyme's disease, it's either your bed is a safe space
Mhm.
and you hide in your home. Me, it's like, no, I was a practitioner. I wanted to give and I was a good practitioner. So um, I lived through it. So every morning I was getting up and every night I was going to bed and it was my routine. I was stuck in like a hamster in a wheel,
Mhm.
running like the life of the practitioner who is a good practitioner, but I was living the life of my patients. And I was not an imposter, but in the same way as I'm like, who am I? Being so weak, so fragile, so controlling, so confused, and treating patients. And by then I'm like early 30s, patients from all over the world. I'm recognized as being a good practitioner. I travel for music people, sport people all over the world, politicians, royalties. And I'm like, damn, I'm not well at all.
Mm.
But I'm keeping all those people well and alive, and what's going on? And literally, I was going to doctors, I was going to different practitioners that they were Ayurvedic, Chinese, bioresonance, GPs, dentists.
Mm.
Um, it's like I try again, I was starting to make money in practice. I needed to sort out myself. So I went on that journey to try to find what was going on with me. I couldn't believe that I was depressed or I was hypochondriac or there was nothing wrong with me. It was I had something wrong, but nobody could understand what it was. Doctors, my colleague osteopath, for my friends and my peers, Frédéric is just a little bit odd, and he's got social skills which might not be the best. He might be, he doesn't want to go out at night because he's not social, but in fact, it's like I needed to control, and I was controlling the best I could to survive. So I look good, it's like my skin was good, my hair was good. I was looking after myself because it's the only thing I had to do to survive. I was not drinking. I was eating all the right food because you need to avoid inflammation. And so I was controlling. And one day I had the mischance of the malchance of a patient of mine who came and flew in from Germany. And he was 11 or 12 years old, and I said to the mother, I'm really sorry, but you need to go to hospital because he may have meningitis.
Mm.
And and literally, I write a letter, they go to hospital, and that little boy that I still treat 20 odd years later had encephalitis. So he had the brain infection and brain inflammation due to Lyme's disease.
Mm.
And he was like, the penny dropped. I was like, but that's what I have. I've got exactly the same symptoms, but chronic. I get the hypersensitivity to light. My neck is completely stiff. My joints are achy. I'll pass you all the details, but very simply, I was like, okay, I'm gonna Google Lyme's disease. I'm gonna look for a hospital or someone specializing. And first of all, obviously, you go to your GP. Can you do my test? It's like, oh, Lyme's disease don't exist. And this is only so. By then, I'm a practitioner. I'm very established, early 30s. So we are talking about 18 years ago. And the doctors look at me and they're like, Lyme's disease doesn't exist.
Mm.
It doesn't give symptoms. It doesn't give problems. And I'm like, okay. I go and see a second one. Okay. And you are into the same kind of situation of not being seen, not being understood, feeling insecure because obviously your body is so stressed out that your confidence, you're so insecure. You're like, possibly they're right. Again, it's like I may not have Lyme's disease, but fortunately, I discovered a hospital in England, which was private hospital, as controversial as they were, managed to send my blood in Germany, and then I did more bloods as well myself in Switzerland, knowing that I'm based in London in the United Kingdom, and at the time, the tests were taking 2 to 3 weeks to come back, and they came back positive with a list of co-infections,
Mm.
which were over 2 to 3 pages long. And here I was diagnosed. So by then I must have been close to 35 years old. And I'd been living possibly with Lyme's disease for almost 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And living a life which was the life of the microorganism, and I was just the host. And I always do a comparison to my patients where you are the host and you have got the guest, and suddenly the guest has taken over the house. And it was my body was a mess, my mind was a mess, and I was just trying to survive. And that diagnosis was already the best news that I could have wished. And from there, the next journey started.
So, Frédéric, I'm going to take you back a couple of steps. How long was that process for you? I know you mentioned you saw dozens of specialists probably in that time span, but how long was the process for you to actually go down that line of testing and receive that diagnosis?
So, I hear your question. I'm just going to think about it. So, because being a teenager, um, so I'm going to go back in this case a little bit deeper because I can divide it in three kind of time life or part of my life. One is obviously being a young boy, where being 8 to 10 years old, 7 to 10 years old, I was living in the countryside, was helping all the farmers around, and so I got stung so many times by ticks and other bites. And and I remember being, as I say, 7 to 10 years old, and the farm lady could see that I'd been bitten, and so she was taking the brush, putting me naked in the iron tub, and she was brushing me, trying to get rid of all those ticks on my skin, and then the next day I had all those red marks on my body. I was covered. And my mom took me to the doctor. So obviously that's the first episode. And it happened several times during that period of 7 to 10. Went to see the doctors. And again, 40 years ago, they just thought, oh, he has got an allergic reaction. Let's give him antihistamine. It just bites. And we left it there, and it happened several times. So the infection happened at this stage. And without me being failed, I didn't get the right diagnosis. And the second part would be definitely being in my 20s, being a student in osteopathy, seeing all my colleagues, osteopath, and we had lots of other practitioners around looking after us, nobody really realized that all the functional issues and the mental issue I had, or digestive issues that I was getting, because my digestive system, as much as my heart and my brain were not working, my digestive system, I was just passing water, a kind of like, it was not even brown water. It was like just mucus, and I was
So
so
no nutrient absorption happening at all for you.
exactly. I
Yeah.
was like already carrying a moon face,
Mm.
cortisol, and really the whole body was, all the signs and symptoms were there, but again, nobody saw me. And this is even being a student of osteopathy. And again, I'm not throwing the stone, is we didn't know. I mean, thanks to you and your listeners, we're getting more awareness. And that's what we want, and that's what I'm trying to do as well. But the third part is when I knew I was really unwell, which was in my late 20s, when I started having, I had 6 heart infections. It's not one or two. It's like proper heart infection. And people were like, you were running when you had the flu or you had the cold, so it went into your heart, and you had a strep or staphylococcus, and that's it. And we just give you a week of antibiotics, and you're gonna be better. But it happened 6 times. So at the back of this, they should have already, over a period of 5 years or 6 years, found out that I had an issue. But that third part lasted a lot longer than I would have liked. Not that it is weeks or months, it was literally close to 10 years. But again, I'm not throwing the stone to anyone because I'm a practitioner. I didn't see it. I didn't realize it. I failed certainly lots of my patients as well with Lyme's disease or tick-borne disease or neurotoxic behavior,
Mhm.
um, other than Lyme's disease. And I just didn't understand, didn't recognize it. I was not taught that it was existing. And so that period was, yeah, carrying, you carry your cross, or you really are on the journey of pain. Because from a relationship point of view, you can't relate to anything. Even your parents, you can't relate to them, and they don't understand you. They just think that, okay, he's my third child who is a little bit bizarre. We always say there is a bizarre one in the family, so let's be Frédéric. But yeah, turn a corner and got diagnosed.
Mhm. And your story resonates with me deeply, and I'm sure many of our audience. In my case, I had done conventional lab testing, Lyme's testing too, usually through the conventional labs, and everything was negative through my chronic illness journey. It wasn't until I had a surgery in 2019, same kind of situation, the anesthesia, around the time of COVID. So they were blaming it on that. However, I tested and I didn't have any antibodies. So obviously it wasn't COVID, but I'm not going to go into that here. What I want to call to the attention of our audience is that you might have received similar prognosis or not. No disease label. Maybe you did receive a disease label, but ultimately, when you look at the cascade of symptoms, it's really the body's way of trying to shift out of an out of balance state and then back into balance. And it can be spurred by so many toxins. So in your case, Lyme was there as one of the hidden causes. And then you had all of those increased toxins with the surgery causing systemic inflammation or reactivation of these viruses. So with that, and from your research, why do you think that traditional diagnostics are limited in identifying Lyme, and how are they so often misclassified?
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear everything you went through as well, Sharon. Um, yeah, I see and understand your question as well from before. It's like I did have a lot of blood tests in the UK, in France, and again, you need to know what you are looking for. And I'm going to bring up as well it's not only Lyme's disease that sometimes you struggle to look for. A lot of patients have got, let's say, bowel issues. They do stool samples
Mhm.
and they say, oh, I didn't find anything or just a little parasite. The problem is you need to know what you are looking for. And if you don't know what you are looking for and how to look for it, everything might be in front of your eyes, but you don't see it. And this we see it with Lyme's disease. We see it with a lot of other conditions. We see it with a lot of bowel issues. But my diagnoses were often hypochondriac, ADHD, ADD, hyperactive behaviors, obviously depression, social behavioral issues. So I was really categorized and intellectually as well categorized because I really struggled. From the age of 16, I thought I was a silly person. I was good at school. I was possibly doing the minimum up to 16, but then suddenly everything was a collapse, and I was just like a silly kid that was not being helped by the teachers and obviously not helped by the medical society because we didn't know. Um, and Going back to your proper question is the tests are difficult for Lyme's disease. There is no doubt about it, but there are lots of good laboratories in the world now. I named In Germany, there are a couple of them. I don't want to name them just like this. People can email me. There is no, I will share. So in Germany, there are a couple of very good labs in Switzerland, in Belgium, in America. But those labs are private, most of them. And most of the public, or what you would expect everybody to be able to get a good test from. Most of the times they don't do those antibody testing, as you say, which is essential for the discovery of Lyme's disease, especially when it's chronic. It's like testing for COVID. Again, it's like no polemic with COVID, but in practice, this last 4 or 5 months has been a nightmare. A lot of COVID has come back. The new variant is really, really potent. There was an article yesterday in the news in the UK saying, a lot more people in hospital, people dying again. And yes, I mean, there is, it's different from Lyme's disease, but it's still a neurotoxin. It goes and attack your weakest part of your body. And we have got tests which have been done 5 years ago, which you expect them to work. But again, you have got a new variant. And Lyme's disease is the same. You can have Borrelia, but Borrelia has got lots of different variants. And so some of the tests might not be picking up, or the antibodies might not be picking up specifically the microorganism inside your blood. Even so, you have the best lab under your hand and you can pay for it. But yeah, that's one of the big issue.
Yeah, so let's kind of shift gears a little bit and talk about liquid intelligence. Can you explain what liquid intelligence is and how it really spurred your healing recovery after those 2 decades or more of the symptoms that you were mentioning earlier?
Yeah. So liquid intelligence, as you said, is associated to a process, a technology, and that liquid intelligence is used into food supplements and some patches as well that we use, some cosmetic well-being patches. I'm gonna go back a step. Being an osteopath for 27 years, being a very classical osteopath with lots of modern ideas, I practice in a way where you understand that body, life, the universe is matter and energy. So we come up with the concept of body, mind, energy, where you need to have a physical approach and you need to have an energetic approach because we are hybrid. We are like a hybrid car. A hybrid car, you give it petrol, you give it energy. The body is made of biochemistry and is biophysic. You have got electricity going through your body. Your cells receive the photons of the sunshine to create vitamin D. You go to the doctors, you get ECGs, EEGs. So we are energy, we are electricity. You do an MRI, you realize that you are 99.9% energy. So that's the first part. So I've always worked with matter and energy. And at one point I realized that matter and energy, when they are not working very well, they are going to affect the cells of your body. So the cell of the body, and that's always what we call it, body, mind, energy. Every cells of your body has got a mind of its own. So when we treat very simply as an osteopath, we want to be able to affect every cells of your body. And every cells of this body are made of atoms. I mean, actually, they are made of molecular water, those cells. Those molecules of water, they are made of atoms, electrons, particles. Again, you realize that from matter, from the water, we are actually energy. And so my process was, I went to the orthodox doctor to be treated with antibiotics. I went to do IV antibiotics. I went to do chelation. I went to do Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, psychotherapy, bioresonance. I went through everything, dentistry, which is often associated to Lyme's disease. So I did a lot of different protocols, and I realized that actually the weakness in the system was everything is working a little bit, but actually it's by working all together that we are going to be able to treat Lyme disease or every cells of your body. So I go back. So we have someone who suffered, someone who sees someone suffering, and we haven't got a solution. Most solutions work a little bit, but not work enough. So I created a lab in my practice about now 15 years ago. And empirically, we are like, can we integrate everything we've learned from being a patient, from being a practitioner, from seeing all those people suffering, from the weakness and that gap between performing and being unwell? How do you treat that dysfunctional um, uh, systemic issues? And so we integrating everything we learn and created liquid intelligence. So to go back is like we created a technology to be able to give us a liquid intelligence, which is a hybrid food supplement in some ways. So we want to work on every cells of your body. We want to work on all the molecules of water inside your body to recreate the foundations of who you are. So we are a system. We are made of function, and all of those are interrelated interconnected through those molecules of water and through those cells. So liquid intelligence has got this ability to go and reach every cells of your body. That's the reason why it is liquid. But we managed to do this because our technology creates a liquid intelligence, which is on one side biochemistry with plants, minerals, but electrolytes, dynamized water, and vibration. That vibration with the biochemistry of the product go and reach every cells of your body and is able to reset the foundation of your body. To be honest with you, we've got two approaches. One, liquid intelligence, which is there to really recreate the foundation of your body. So the idea is to allow your body to go back into rhythm, is to allow your body to have a supported immunity, a body who is able to detoxify, a body who is able to deal with past trauma, physical, emotional, acquired, sometimes inherited. So we want to go into all these patterns inside your body for your body to go back into rhythm, for your body to go back into coherence, for all the cells to talk to each other, for them to self-reorganize. So we don't treat Lyme disease. We put the body in a place where it's going to self-regulate it, where
Yes.
the physiology is going to come back together. And only then you can thrive. Then we've got another product to thrive physically, emotionally, mentally, your brain, your heart, your digestive, your genital, your cells, lymphatic, immunity, thrive energetically, emotionally. But the most important is how do you, reach the microorganism through the body, and you need to reach it everywhere, because the problem with antibiotics or the problem with some herbs or the problem with some treatments is they don't reach the brain, or they don't reach the cyst in your liver, or they don't reach the joint or your teeth. So you need that kind of hybrid approach of biochemistry and bioenergy to be able to reach every single cells of your body. And that's what we succeeded to do with liquid intelligence.
Amazing. I was going to ask you to elaborate on that, especially for those patients or clients who were tried or they have tried antibiotics, they tried the herbal protocols, and you really made it clear to us how your approach is very different. And it could be very encouraging, especially for those people who have multiple chemical sensitivities or intolerances to different types of herbals and tinctures and things. I work with a very sensitive population. We call them highly sensitive people, HSPs. And so they struggle with onboarding supplements quite often. They have to literally break open capsules, sprinkle a little bit into water, and try to just slowly titrate things that their body is missing. And then this is all done by a system, functional diagnostic nutrition, where we look at all of the hidden stressors in the body across the system. So it's hormones, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, which you're hitting on very, very deeply here, and the nervous system. So I feel your liquid intelligence would pretty much check all those areas off. So how would you succinctly tell the audience if they have been in this predicament where they cannot tolerate supplements? How could you reassure our audience that doing something with this line of work would be a positive impact and that they shouldn't really be fearful of an outcome that they're not quite sure of?
Thank you. So when I'm a hypersensitive, or I was hypersensitive, I still suffer positively of synesthesia. So I can feel people and I can mirror what they are feeling. That's how I managed to create Liquid Intelligence and Aequil Science Laboratory. But what is interesting is what people need to understand is we need to go and treat the root cause of their issues, which is what you are saying is like, okay, we have pathways issues, we have hormonal issues, enzyme. But what happens is when the body is stressed, suddenly your hormones are going to be affected. Your enzymes, your good bacteria in your body, your vagus nerve is going to be affected, your hair, your nails, your skin. So we come to a point of view where we want to remove the root cause of your problems in your foundation. Plus, we want you to thrive, which, as you say, your brain, your heart, your liver, all those pathways, all those functions needs to be thriving. So we have that double approach, as you know, body energy, first of all, to affect every single cells. Then we've got this approach, which is Pasteur was saying, we need to remove microorganisms for your body to thrive. And Claude Bernard, the other French scientist, was saying, you want your foundations to be strong for your body to be able to fight everything. So we have that double approach with our liquid intelligence. So we want to consolidate your foundation and allow your body to fix itself. But in the same time, we give everything to your body to thrive as you are trying to get those foundations sorted. Because as you said, it's like so many people's pathways of cleansing, for example, just that, of cleansing can be low, or their mental kind of strength to be able to cope with a detox, because sometimes you can have little highs and lows, might not be there. So the ideas that we have is, yes, we want your foundations to be reset. You want your foundations to be back in rhythm, but you still need to have a little bit of a push and thriving. So that's the second point. And then as a third point, because I suffered from the capsule, as you say, I've been like most of us who have become neurotic because of the disease of controlling everything. We are like, okay, I can't have two capsules of this. So the products we've created, first of all, is liquid. So there is no capsule. We made sure that there is barely 0.2%, I think, of preservatives in it. And it's a natural preservative. There is no alcohol in it. There is no huge scent of it. Yes, the taste of it tastes possibly a little bit medical, because there are plants in it and there is a little bit of a salty kind of taste. But when it's diluted in water, or you take it as a shot, you literally you don't realize it and you start loving it. You know, it's one of those not necessarily medical kind of approach where when you think it's disgusting is working better, but literally all the patients at the beginning like, oh, that's quite strong taste, but actually we go with it and it works very nicely. But the idea of the products is, again, controlling all our hypersensitivity. So no alcohol, no chemicals, no preservatives, no smell. Because I see myself as like when I had really bad Lyme's disease, that it was perfumes. Perfumes were not allowed. My patients were not allowed to wear perfumes. They were not allowed to put any sprays in their hair. They were not allowed to go to do their nails before the coming to the surgery. They knew. I was adamant. You can't do this, guys. I'm gonna be ill. And so the products take into consideration all that sensory aspect because that's what we are. We connect, we feel, we touch, we sense. Everything is a sensory approach. Aequil, or what I created, Aequil Liquid Intelligence, has got that sensory approach. So everything has been taken into consideration to make it as simple as possible and as easy and as tolerable as possible.
All right. And as a natural-based product, it seems that you've already addressed all of this, but are there any contraindications or would there be any particular patient subgroup that you would kind of caution to hold off on this approach?
So again, there is acute Lyme's disease, obviously, and there is chronic Lyme's disease. And there is obviously all the co-infection, there is the age group, there is where are your hormones here supporting your body? So are you already 40 plus, a man or woman? The body is a very simple structure. It's electricity, plumbing, kitchen, foundation. Foundation being your urogenital system, being your inner strength, that tiger inside you, hormones, obviously. And when you go through puberty, 12, 13, or even younger these days, but when you turn into menopause and andropause, when you are, and I don't want to put it down to 35 when the hormones starts being affected, but let's say 40 plus, when your foundation, so your hormones collapse a little bit, suddenly your nervous system is not able to react as efficiently as you want it to be. So the stress of low hormone plus the stress of having Lyme's disease, for example, and other toxicity, going through a detox or a process, your body is not as strong to do it as someone who's 30 to do it. So everything needs to be taken into consideration. And so when we created Liquid Intelligence, when we created our products, range and experiences, people can reach out to me, number one, even if they are on the other side of the world. We have the idea is to be there for them. Like I've been a patient myself and I needed help. I'm a practitioner at heart and devoted. So we are here to help our patients. And through what we created, the idea is to help and be there for as many people as possible. But to add to this, we created a low dose protocol as well, what we call the deep reset. And in fact, we start by microdosing once a week. I tend to say to my patient, start doing it every day and we see if you get a hux, if your immune system is really affecting the microorganisms and you've got release of exotoxin and endotoxin. So when you are the practitioner and you are one-on-one, it's easy to manage. With people abroad and outside of the practice, what we do is we do say to them, you can try and see if your body accepts. And if it doesn't, we have a proper protocol, which is you do it only once a week for about 5 weeks. So like this, it gives the opportunity, or I'm talking about recreating the foundation. So recreating the foundation for you to function, for you to be vibrant, for your cellular functions to come back. We say to them, take it only once a week. We microdose, and then the one to thrive, to nourish your body, and nourish it physically but energetically as well. we tend to recommend to do it every day. And we've never had, honestly, in easily 10 years that we've been using the products on friends and family and everything, we've never had, and patients obviously now, we've never had any issues with herbal toxicity. Again, herbs, wherever they're coming from, you need to really make sure you know what process they add. So we are really on the back of this, making sure that the plants we use or the vitamins we use have got no pesticides. They are chemical free. Again, for taking into consideration the hypersensitive person.
Beautiful. Thank you for that consideration, Frédéric, and it will definitely open doors for so many people. So with that being said, our audience who is watching this can see the name of the company, they can see how it's spelled, but can you let our listeners know where they can find you, where they can possibly reach out by email and website?
Yeah, I would have loved to continue for the next hour, Sharon.
That's
To you
very
and your
good.
listener. So yes, I mean, I'm based in London. Aequil.com is our product company. We've got a beautiful laboratory which is called Aequil Science. So there is aequilscience.com, which is creating a world of well-being. So again, because we are a hypersensitive person, and I want people to understand the credibility and where we are coming from. The products, the food supplements that we are describing today and we talked about is really making sure that we are well within. So it's that kind of inner strength that we are recreating for us to be able to fight. But the problem is the world around us as well. Obviously, you know that climate change and make the ticks or the mosquito moves. I mean, like we've got dengue fever in Italy and in France now. We've got chikungunya in the south of France. The planet is struggling, and so everything we breathe, we eat, we apply on our skin is quite a bit toxic and lack of energy. So Aequil Science is all about human health and planet health. And so we created that technology. That technology has helped us to create the food supplements, but we are creating as well, and I presented in Sweden a technology to treat the Lyme's disease itself, the microorganism, through a technology where we stop the growth of the microorganism. We are working on creating a device which sends frequency in the air because I'm working in quantum biology. So if they want really credibility, they can see the laboratory aequilscience.com. And if they want to really be personal and reaching out, I still see patients. I still see 4,000 patients a year. I still work a lot, based in London. But the easiest for anybody who struggles from anything long term, that it is Lyme's disease, long COVID, that it is premature aging, that it is sugar craving. Very simply, the idea is to biohack the body with those foundation and thriving, and they can reach out on support at equilliving.com. And
Okay.
I'll be the one responding and happy to respond and follow up. And I'll be there.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. We'll put that in the show notes for our audience and our listeners. But we again appreciate your time. We know that being in a different time zone is difficult to fit these in. But again, we appreciate all of your wisdom, your work focused on treating chronic illness conditions and not just alleviating one or two symptoms, but looking at the body as a whole. So thank you once again, Frédéric, and thank you to all of our audience. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.